technology related to your home, your business, and your life. Today, we're going to talk about failed technology, failed companies. We have a classic case study for you today, and it's about the company Kodak.
Wow, going down today, going down in flames. Hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. Welcome to Tech Talk 2020. Again, Mike Carswell here. Each week we talk about technology and other types of things that'll keep your technical mind jamming. We'd like to hear from you during the show or even after the show. Just tweet at us at Tech Talk 2020 or hit us up on our Facebook page, which is also Tech Talk 2020. Now, on today's show, you mentioned failures and not good stuff, man. We're in a city of champions.
Yes.
We're in the city of champions, my man. So I want to make sure that we let everybody know out there that the Cleveland Cavaliers are champions. We are the home of the world champions, and it's beautiful to be there. So I had to start off with that today.
Well, you know what the best thing about that is?
Tell me.
Other cities today are reacting, trying to prepare for us.
Got it.
They are panicking. They are jumping ship. They are signing everybody they can. People are trying to come out from retirement. People with wheelchairs are trying to come out to cash in on the bandwagon because it's going to be Cleveland defending the title for the next several years to come.
How sweet it is. I was downtown with 1.3 million of my closest friends a couple weeks ago, and that was something I've been waiting a long time for, Sanjay.
Beautiful.
It was so awesome. So we're going from success and awesomeness to not so good.
Well, think about life before Kodak. Well,
Kodak.
Yes. You were just a teenager.
Pardon me. Life before Kodak. Now, honestly, I remember cameras that used to look in the top of them. They resembled a small milk carton, and you would kind of look in the top, and the lens would kind of, flip-flop between each other, and you would be looking through the top of the camera but focus on something in front of you. So I don't know if that was a Kodak model, but probably.
So hard to do selfies that way. Selfies. Imagine life before Kodak. There was no Kodak moment. There was no national pastime of taking photography. Consumerization of photographs really occurred because of Kodak. Huge company, right? Mm-hmm. They spent a ton of money on R&D. They spent a ton of money on the infrastructure of their network, right? You remember those photo mats and photo booths?
Sure. Yeah, I remember the little drive-ups, and that was kind of cool. I always laugh at how we used to fawn over and make a big fuss about pictures, the 3x5s. That's not the right size.
5x7s?
No, the smaller ones.
3x5s.
Is it 3x5, 3.5x4, something like that? Those are the pictures that we put in our photo albums, and those are ones that obviously scrapbookers love. Yep. That are everywhere throughout our life, especially as a kid. And by the way, I did find out that Kodak, man, they go back to the 1800s. So that camera that I was looking at, through the top of it was probably sometimes a 1950s model or 1960s model where you looked into the top of the camera, things projected out forwardly. So
absolutely dominant in that space. They owned it. I mean, we're talking 80% market saturation. Do you know who their primary customer was? Who they really, really marketed to, especially in the 20th century?
I would say white American females.
Yep, you got it.
They buy everything.
Suburban housewives, right? Absolutely, and it was designed to help them capture life's moments, right? Sure. Children, absolutely. You think about today, see all these pictures on Facebook, lots of kid pictures, lots of great things. I mean, that's still driving a lot of the momentum.
Some of us more than others,
right? Definitely.
There you
Definitely. Go. Hashtag overshare. Now, what we see is, people want to capture those moments, especially with children. Mm-hmm. In 2 weeks, your child has grown and looks different. So absolutely amazing. So back in 1976, I think, roughly 76.
76?
Yep.
That was a very good year.
It's a good year, our bicentennial.
That's right. I was around. I remember those bicentennial quarters.
What did you do on July 4th, 1976?
Love you too, buddy. But in 1976, I was a sophomore in high school. So, no, I was a freshman in high school. Sorry. I was but a young buck at that time.
That's right.
Strapping young boy.
Not too long ago.
6'2", 147 pounds.
And still growing.
Beautiful years of my life. But go on.
That's awesome. So they invented something called a digital camera because they had tons of money to do R&D.
Sure.
And so they created this digital camera. Somebody in one of their labs and came out and got some momentum within the company, as I hear it.
What was the difference with the digital camera and the other cameras? Do you know that at all?
Yeah, in terms of
functionality.
Well, I mean, the major transformation is not printing it. There was no mechanism at that time to take that digital print and print it. People weren't even thinking about that. They were just saying, look, let's make this. It was called filmless. Filmless cameras. Right?
Gotcha. You're right. So everything was done on film prior to that.
Right. So we're not going to use film, and we're going to do digital. Now, it was relatively crude because of the sensors, the pixelization, was there, but it was absolutely a big start. Now, Kodak looked at that and they said, "Wow, this is pretty cool, but it's really not
practical.
Not for us because it's really something that can be developed, but it's definitely much more of a professional tool where you might want to take hundreds of pictures and choose the best one and figure. I'm sure they were thinking about print, but high-end print, and it's going to get there. We're not in that market. We're catering to the American suburban housewife.
Gotcha.
And that's where our dollars are. So in '76, they kind of worked on it a little bit and shelved it. 20 years later, in 1996,
yes, sir.
Kodak was still doing pretty well. You know how many employees they had?
Now, they're in Rochester, New York, correct? Headquarters?
I believe.
Yes. I know that. that.
Right by Xerox in Rochester, New York.
Okay. So Kodak had in 1996, you asked how many employees they had? 20,000.
140,000.
Whoa. 7 times I mentioned. Wow.
They were still big. 6 years later, in 2002.
Okay.
They went out of business, filed for bankruptcy.
Wow.
So think about that.
Who can we blame that on?
Well,
it doesn't matter.
We can't. Well,
here,
remember that phrase that your Uncle Sanj used to tell you, evolve or die? Remember that?
I didn't have an Uncle Sanj. I had a lot of uncles, but Uncle Sanj in my family from East 55th Street, I don't think so. Maybe Uncle Leroy, Uncle Sam, but not Uncle Sanj. But I'll take it in. I know what you mean.
So
evolve or die?
Evolve or die, adapt or die.
Okay.
Grow or die.
Get with the program. I got you.
So what happened was Kodak decided, well, this doesn't really meet our needs. We've already invested in this big infrastructure of print facilities, and people drop off their film.
What were those called again? Those little crazy-looking yellow booths. Photo booth?
Photomats?
Photomat, maybe? Photomat was a brand itself, but Kodak had some as well. Yeah. And they were yellow. Photomats were green.
Wow.
I'm sorry. This stuff is up in the...
That's awesome.
It's up in the caverns of my brain.
I remember the yellow ones. They had one here on 185th.
We'll check on the break. We'll see. We'll look it up on the internet.
So they also said... we can't believe that people would want to take, not have the tangible picture. Why would they want to take these pictures and just have them somewhere where they can't even touch them, where they can't feel them, where they can't enjoy them? That is such a silly idea. We never think it's going to take off. Wow. And so that's what happened. They just didn't recognize, here's what they didn't recognize. This was not a marketing issue. Mm-hmm. They owned the brand dominance was ridiculous. This was an issue of, and it wasn't an issue of not understanding new technology and investing in R&D. They absolutely did that. They had it.
Sure.
It was the inability for them to decide that they need to think out of their own business and say, instead of this being a direct competition in a different market for our product, this was going to be the product. They did not understand that the world was changing into a digital world. If they had known Facebook was going to come around, and we were going to share pictures, and we were going to do it on Flickr and Snapchat and use cameras to capture, they absolutely would have had that business model. But they had no idea this stuff was going to come. They had no idea, and they couldn't adapt. And 140,000 people lost their jobs.
I'm sorry to hear that. If you're one of the folks affected by that, your family affected, I'm sure some of our listeners, somebody knows someone that was a Kodak casualty. But I think about it like this. Sometimes you just don't know. When you get in your wheelhouse and you're comfortable and you're making your things this way, and it's successful, pick an item. Whoever thought that bicycles, or they've changed so dramatically, or the evolution of so many different things. I always think about T-shirts, and you're going to laugh at this one, but it's a little bit of parallel. When I was a kid growing up, no one wore T-shirts exteriorly as outerwear.
Really?
We wore collared shirts And I remember even playing in the yard with a collared shirt on. T-shirts, Daffy Dan in the 70s had a business that began, and that really kind of revolutionized T-shirts as outerwear. So I always laugh about that, is that I don't remember as a kid, I didn't even wear shorts very often. We had shorts, wear long pants all the time. So anyway, things change, and you can't see sometimes when we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what Kodak didn't see as well is that the mindset of photographic equipment, which is what they sold. It's camera stuff. It's very good optics. It's, a functional camera. When we went to digitization, digital cameras started becoming electronic gadgets, which were disposable after a few years, right?
My.
You buy it,
Yep.
It gets outdated, you dispose it. That shift was seismic in terms of that industry, and they didn't recognize that.
So even the digital cameras, back up, the disposable cameras, which you kind of alluded to a little bit there when you mentioned throwing away,
Yeah,
I never liked those.
Forgot about those.
I
Yeah.
never liked those.
Yeah.
But then they still also used the medium of film, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because you had to get them developed.
Yep.
So they're part of the
You
old
would turn in
school.
the whole camera to get
That's
developed.
Right. That's right. Here, take my whole plastic cardboard box here and give me back a bunch of pictures.
Oh, boy, I remember that.
That
I
seems
do.
so primitive now.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially since my beautiful photos I take all the time are on my Android, baby. It
Yeah.
rocks.
Well, Polaroid had the right idea. Today, speed is the thing that will disrupt, right? Speed disrupts. So when you can take a picture on your phone, immediately look at it, take another one until you get the right mix. You can edit it on your phone. You can post it and share it to 1,000 of your friends within seconds. Okay,
Yeah.
That's speed. Now, Polaroid had the instant gratification of the little Polaroid camera. That was pretty good. And
Those were
actually,
cool.
you can still buy that.
They stink, though.
No, they're great.
They were chemicals.
They're good for parties. Yeah, they do. Oh, they literally stink. Yeah, yeah, they do.
Quality was mediocre at best, but then they smelled. They had some chemical smell. I never liked that.
You're not supposed to smell them.
I don't know. Every kid smells everything,
Yeah, that's true.
And there's a few Polaroids out there I wish that weren't taken in my younger days. I'm
yeah,
sure.
but at least it's not. Well, I guess now you could take a picture of it and put it on Facebook. So it's
take
not
a picture of
gonna
a
die.
picture. I've done that. Hey, I'm looking at these photomat booths, and they are yellow, and I think that's pretty interesting how they must have been a Kodak-driven activity there. But, yeah, people would drive up in their vehicles and drop off their film and come back in, 6 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 days, whatever the delivery time was. I remember the anticipation of going to the drugstore.
So exciting.
Oh, to get the 14 photos or 26 photos, and you always hope that they weren't blurry.
Yep, or 6 of them don't have your thumb over the actual print.
Yeah, so much was at hands. So much was left to chance at those times. So we've kind of eliminated that. So let's go back to Kodak, though. So what happened?
They held on to their legacy assets and their legacy model, and they didn't tap into the trends around the world around digitization. And what happened was they slowly and then quickly. This is how they say a rich man loses his money. First slowly, then all of a sudden. Right? So this is what happened to Kodak. Slowly lost market share, and then all of a sudden, boom, they were done, and that was it. So the lesson here is understand what's happening outside of your business as well. Watch the trends. Think about digitization and how that's changed every single industry, and how speed kills, and how you need to evolve as a business.
Kind of like Uncle Sanj, man.
That's your tip for the day
Evolve
from
or
Uncle
die.
Sanj. Yep.
Well, listen, guys, thank you for tuning in for the first segment here. We're going to be back in a few minutes here, and we'll turn more attention to progression and Kodak and what happens sometimes if you don't evolve. So we're glad to have you here on Tech Talk 2020. We'll talk to you after the break. Thank you for joining us here on WINT 1330 AM.
Welcome back to Tech Talk 2020 with Sanjay Parker. I'm your host, Sanjay Parker. I'm here with my good pal, co-host, Mike Carswell. Today we are talking about failed technologies, and we just did a case study on Kodak, and it's a company that failed, but really it was driven by the change in technologies and the digitization of photos and the consumerization of everybody having photos, especially men having cameras, because they didn't market that. Really, it seems second nature today, but taking photographs wasn't a man's job, apparently, back in the 70s and 80s. So interesting change. Today's show is brought to you by our sponsor, CleavSpace Interactive, frictionless IT for smart businesses. If you need any help with technology, websites, data-driven analytics around your technology, call CleavSpace Interactive, 440-360-7360.
Since we're talking about technology and successes and failures, well, more we're talking about failures today. Sorry, guys. But hit us up on Facebook at Tech Talk 2020 or on Twitter also at Tech Talk 2020. If you've got a question, a thought, an idea, or some slip-up, unfortunately, that you know about in the good old technology world, we can get swallowed by technology, just completely engulfed in it. And it's funny when you look back 10 years ago, there's so many movies that were made in the 80s and 90s now, and you see flip phones, or you even see more primitive phones than that. So it's funny how times will change, and a movie is quickly dated, oftentimes by the technology represented in that movie.
Absolutely.
See, you proud of me?
Always, Mike. Always. Very good.
Yes.
So I'd like to spend the rest of the show talking about other failed technology, and if you have any failed technologies you'd like to list in a little moratorium, if you can.
Is this True Confessions time?
Go to our Facebook page, Tech Talk 2020, and we would be happy to hear you soliloquize. Is that a word?
No, not at all.
No. About any kind of technology that fails. So first thing that comes to my mind, and I'm going to look up a list here and go down these and see which ones you remember, Mike. But
okay.
First thing that always comes to mind is VCRs.
Hey, I still have one.
And Betamax.
I don't have a Betamax.
It was Sony's proprietary technology. Mm-hmm. It was far superior to VHS.
Oh, yeah.
And so the form factor was smaller.
Yep.
The audio quality was better.
Yep.
The picture was better. And it failed.
Well, it had a nice run. And actually, the VHS seems to have had a longer run. And actually, I have two VHS machines functional back in my crib. Two of them.
You can't say VHS and crib in the same sentence.
Oh yeah, man, we used to say it back in the day. But no, I've got a videotape. I've got a Little Rascal series that I was watching the other day, which is amazing stuff.
Yeah,
love it. And then also, I hate to say this, but I was watching some of my old basketball films. I've got 4 games from when I played in college. Thank you, my brother actually videotaped them on Betamax, and we had them transferred. Yes, thank you. And then we had them transferred to DVD. So I still have those.
We need to digitize those and put them on the site. Why not?
Do people want to see me in those short shorts? I played before the 3-point line, buddy. There was basketball before the 3-point line. Yes, there was.
People were hard and gritty and inside and working,
man,
and earning their points, right?
3-pointer. Never even heard of a 3-pointer. So, but no, I've got some VHS. That's one of your favorites to talk about. Okay, what about the other type of cassette? The audio cassette.
Yeah,
I still got a few of those around the house.
Yeah. So now that's a victim. So the first one was a victim of marketing, right? Okay. Betamax, made by Sony. They had proprietary standards. They were trying to do a deal with JVC. JVC went somewhere else, and it fell apart.
Okay.
The second one you mentioned is a victim of digitization, right? Any kind of analog type of medium, right? 8-track, audio cassettes. It's analog. That stuff breaks down over time. You can't access it in a parallel fashion, meaning if I want to get to track 9, I have to fast forward through tracks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I remember those days.
Right. And think about it. If you tell your kids that, or if we tell our kids or grandkids when we get them,
they will laugh at me.
They will say, "What? You must have had such a hard life. Did you guys even have like electricity?
Running water?"
I can't believe it. So today, right, it's, hey, I want whatever track I want. I want it to start right away. I want to get to it. So it's
everything's now,
and also in the palm of my hand, right? Remember having all your tapes? Did you go to your friend's house, take your tapes over so he could listen to your stuff? Yep.
Albums, for sure we did that.
Albums?
Album listening events, we'd have those.
Yep.
We'd have those. Eating Captain Crunch cereal.
Yeah, oh man. So there is speaking of albums, though, albums still are alive today, and there is a market for albums because of this. Being a recording artist, you should know this.
Yes, sir.
And you will when I mention it. When people went to digital recording and started using digital instruments, digital recording is squeaky clean. It was amazing. Everybody loved it. No pop, no hiss, no background hum, no anything. Totally clean. But when you put like a digital instrument, a digital synthesizer, digital drums, and you put that onto a digital track, it is too sterile, right? Mm-hmm. So people are longing for the warmth.
It's got no feeling.
So when you take that song, that sterile song, and put it on a warm analog record and play it back, it has more depth.
Okay, I feel you. Yep.
So people are spending a lot of money on these high-end players and buying records, and you can get records of a lot of current stuff, putting it on there, and they're like, wow, this is the way to listen.
Well, I actually have several albums lurking in my basement of several music genres. So I do still have a turntable, not separately, but a turntable that's part of what we called a component set. Oh. Anybody out there remember component set? Raise your left hand. It had a radio. It would have a cassette or two, player or two, and it would also have a turntable for you.
I think my mom had that. It looks like furniture too, right? It's in wood.
Yes, there are some that do, but I've got one in my office that in the basement that we don't use it very often. But I think there's actually Thriller is the album that's on that. When I saw it the other day, Thriller was on there.
That's an amazing album. All right. How about this?
1983? That's not that long ago. I remember that.
83. Wow. So how about this? Have you heard of the Apple Newton?
Oh, I know I have, but save me some time.
This is one. So there's a long list here of failed technologies. Let me see what year this was. 1993.
Okay.
It was Apple deploying out a handheld device. That was a computer.
I missed that.
I think they were about 20 years ahead of their time.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe 15.
Sure.
And so the Newton came out, and the problem people had with it was that it wasn't that great with recognizing your handwritten scribbles.
Okay.
Because that's how you'd communicate with it. You want to send an email, you didn't have a keyboard built in.
Did you have email then?
Yeah, I think so.
Electronic mail, 93?
Yeah.
You have to look and see the birth of electronic mail.
Yeah, I used it in college earlier than that, yeah.
I don't think...
They were on close. Are you kidding?
I'm not sure.
Yes. Here, hold on.
You can look up the birth of email. That's right. So, but I don't know.
It had to be the
So
80s.
Newton, tell me about Newton, though. So Newton did not work because what would you call that, the script pad when you write wasn't as effective as it needed to be. Correct.
Yeah. So people panned it. It was, limited. It didn't have an app store. Nobody knew what an app store was at that point. But it didn't have enough functionality. So Apple, it failed miserably. They marketed it. There's commercials you can look on Google about the Apple Newton. PDA, the personal digital assistant, was what it was called.
Ooh, I had one of those.
Yeah.
I had one of those.
1972, buddy. Ray Tomlinson is credited with inventing email. In 1972.
Okay.
He picked the @ symbol from the computer keyboard to denote sending message. His first email was sent to his uncle Sanj to thank him for creating it.
I heard of that guy. But when did email become a part of the mainstream is kind of more of a...
Well, that's debatable. Yeah, it became part of mainstream enterprise culture after it was universities. Universities, I know, in the late 80s were using them. They had all their internal email links. I had an email address. If you Google... my name, you can look back to 1990 and see things that I posted on Usenet, asking people in Germany to collaborate with me on making a MIDI sound engine synthesizer for the Atari Falcon and all this great stuff.
Did you go by the code name of Uncle Sanj?
No, I was Baby Sanj at the time.
Baby Sanj. Wow. Well, you were, actually, when you were reaching out to those folks internationally, you were simply asking them to get smarter together.
That's right.
That's what we're always trying to do,
Such
is to get smarter together. That's
amazing. So let's see. I'm looking at what do you know any technologies that come to your mind that you wish were still around?
Well, it's funny. I do kind of miss, as growing up as a kid, we used to have this big brown box of a radio in the kitchen. I'm that old.
What is it? A box of a radio?
No, it was a radio.
A box
it was
of
a radio.
radios?
It was a radio, but it was a box. It looked like a bread box. It was large. I always thought those were kind of cool. So they were kind of furniture looking. You mentioned that earlier we had a stereo as well. That was a piece of furniture. And you lifted the lid and inside there was a radio as well as a turntable. And then also a 8-track player kind of jam. You jam it in there. And it had some serious bass and things would rattle and hum. I was digging it. Technology that I miss, though, sincerely, no. If I thought about it, the telephone has progressed so much. It's amazing to me to see how much is done now with our phones. And like an earlier conversation you and I were having today, that if you want to find someone, basically find their phone, and you can find them.
Yeah.
And 68% of 68% of Americans, I believe, now have a smartphone. Some really crazy number.
Oh yeah, and that number is higher outside of the U.S.
Oh, okay.
Europe, even developing countries.
Awesome.
It's crazy. So here's some failures recently, and I'll name all of the Microsoft operating systems.
Just run through them.
Vista, Microsoft Vista.
Right.
Forget about Windows ME and Windows 98, all of that stuff. The Gateway Corporation.
Oh, I remember the cows. We had one of those.
High definition DVD. I never even heard of that format. Remember that?
No.
Remember Vonage? They did that. Yoo-hoo,
you mean Vonage?
Whatever. Vonage.
What, are you a French now?
I don't know. You could tell.
I had Vonage. We used to call it garbage, but that's okay. Not to slam on the Vonage people.
Wow.
That was VoIP, right? That was voice over internet provider?
Yeah. I was trying to take advantage of that. And then the last one, Sirius XM.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, they merged.
And I talked to auto dealers today, and they say, because of the digitization, portability, and your phones and Bluetooth, nobody wants to pay for satellite. That stuff's declining as well.
Okay.
That'll be the next big failure, but maybe not.
Well, listen, guys, we're so glad you joined us today here on Tech Talk 2020. And like I said, tweet us over the weekend or tweet us when in time off or at our Twitter handle, Tech Talk 2020, or hit us up on Facebook, which is also Tech Talk 2020. And I guarantee you we will not be talking about failures next time, but we'll be talking about great, great things. Thank you for tuning in here on WINT 1330 AM, Integrity Radio. We'll talk to you next week.